Hi there everybody, welcome to DUC in Durban. My name is Barry from South Africa Surf Ski, and I'm with my partner Greg this morning, and we're going to be bringing something new to our channels, a long format video series called Downwind Diaries. We're really excited, so we're going to go through what Downwind Diaries is today, a little bit about what we do as SASS, and a little bit of what's to come in Durban with the ICF World Surf Ski Champs on our doorstep. This is going to be the start line. Greg, really excited to do something a little different and just chat surf ski paddling. We're both passionate surf ski paddlers, and tell me a little bit about what we do as SASS.
So SASS has their premium product, which is the Mauritius Downwind Tours, and that is just next level. People from all over the world have been enjoying it for the last 2 years. We've got the SASS Academy, where we teach every aspect of surf ski that you can imagine, starting with absolute beginners. We've got some kiddie squads, and then we do tours in South Africa down the coastline. We have holiday tours. People come from all over the world. We've had people from every continent out here over the last 2 years, and all of this was born about the end of 2023, when we sat down and said, let's get this going. And it's 2 years now, well, a year and a bit, and I am not regretting any of it.
Yeah, and just that ecosystem of what we do and how passionate surf ski paddlers we are. We've also got a couple of events going now. So we've got something called the Paddle Fest, which is in the early part of the year, which is a couple of events that we put together with a shootout as well as a downwind called the Belido Downwind. And then we're also involved in helping running an ocean festival and the Leatherback Rum Surf Ski Challenge, which is in the LOL Marine Protected Area down the south coast. So geez, we do quite a bit when it comes to surf ski paddling. We love it.
I also love the mix of our environmental awareness that's slowly going to be blending into the work we do, because we love the ocean, and it's great to give back as well.
So on to what Downwind Diaries is going to be all about. We just feel that we can share so much of our surf ski passion with not just our community, but now online. We've been building a community, and Greg's been amazing as our head coach in building our community here in Durban. And we're about to welcome a whole new aspect to that, with the World Surf Ski Champs being on our doorstep in our backyard. So Downwind Diaries is going to be a whole lot of different things. We're not going to put it in a box. It's going to be the two of us talking surf ski paddling and what we're passionate about. It's going to be interviews with other top paddlers. It's going to be footage from the ocean that we can possibly bring you in different formats, just sharing the stoke of surf ski paddling in a different form. That's going to be really fun.
I think it's also nice, Barry, to delve into the history of surf ski, people you've met, the people I've met, and then of course this is where the start of Worlds is. Today is amazing, southwest blowing, so it's nice and flat, but I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but you can see the bump beyond the harbour wall there, and this is where it's all going to be happening in October.
Yeah, so on to Surf Ski World Champs. It's obviously in our backyard. Greg and I both have grown up in Durban. Tell me about your early paddling days just behind us on the beachfront here.
Well, it's so interesting, because we were setting up, we were talking about the history and of our sports and our love for sports, and the one consistent sport that I have been attached to the whole time has been paddling. As a lightie, I arrived at boarding school here, and we used to build our own boats. The matrics would say, you want to paddle, build your boat, and that's where the culture started. I was a member of Durban Surf Lifesaving Club, and that's where I was introduced to surf ski, and that was way back when I was 15 years old. So it's been many years, and I've had the privilege of paddling along the entire coastline in my work with marine mammals way back. And then I met you with the World Surf Ski Series back in, I think it was 2010.
Somewhere around there, I think.
So, yeah.
Obviously, my background also, my dad was a paddler, grew up at a lifesaving club on our beachfront. I think lifesaving always in South Africa, and specifically Durban, has been
speedos, paddle, and a ski.
Has been the feeder system into surf ski paddling. We have a lot of waves on our coastline, and lifesaving's always been such an awesome feeder system to the surf ski paddling in our town and in our country. That's where my sort of background started, at a lifesaving club, and then that progressed when I after school into surf ski paddling, and loved to travel to events around the world. world. And yeah, one of those events was in Plettenberg Bay, part of the World Series back then. Yeah, raced for more than 10 years on the international circuit around the world. I've done some of the biggest races of like the US SASS champs in San Francisco in those days. The Doctor, I've done a couple of those. And really special, have met so many cool people along the way.
Well, there were a lot of legends, as you were talking about this bit of coastline here and the clubs. In my day, Durban Surf was the top club for many years, and there were legends, the Oscar Chalipskis, the Herman Chalipskis, the Malcolm Halls, Tony Scotts. And then I was wondering, as you were speaking, I was wondering who were the legends of your time?
So my dad was obviously involved with paddling and lifesaving. So
Mark Lewin.
Yeah. So I grew up in and around the sport before I ever paddled, specifically around lifesaving. And those same guys were around when I was a kid. So I looked up to guys like Tony Scott. I think one of my first long races, I've got a story of him sort of paddling past me at one page, and I was like, sure, who's this old guy? As a young 18 or 19-year-old, seeing this sort of legend of the sport. He's won PD's London races and cellar descents and all those types of things. And then kind of nuanced paddled against some of the guys that I was a young paddler coming up, and Oscar and Herman and a lot of those top paddlers were still paddling very competitively when I was a youngster. And then obviously nuanced the guys my own age group coming out of lifesaving. At Marine Lifesaving Club, our club grew quite extensively through a program. Wayne Ashford and a couple of guys who had a very strong junior crew. They were just above me, that sort of were very competitive. So the likes of Matthew Bowman, Craig Minnar, that sort of progressed. Matthew's probably one of the most decorated water sportsmen in the country, and that crew ended up sort of navigating into ocean paddling. I was at school with the Bartho brothers. Clint Pretorius was at school with me as well. I paddled many international tours with Clint and Brett Bartho. So yeah, there's that. I think the nice part about paddling, the age is not really a limiter. There's guys that are competitive literally from the age of 19. There's a couple of youngsters coming through the ranks at the moment. Your nephew, Keegan's just got a medal at the World Marathon Champs, and we paddle on a daily basis with him. His dad paddles in our squad. He's super competitive in his age group.
The generations, so you've got David Mocker's son paddling.
Definitely.
Pulled off a number of surf ski races, and for the international viewers, let's talk about some of those institutional races. I mean, first of all, PE to East London. That's a legendary race, and it's made for. There's legends that have raced it, and that was the foundation of your dad's paddling, Tony Scott, all those guys, Oscar.
So Greg, you got to realize in apartheid we weren't able to race against the rest of the world.
I do realize that because I was in apartheid. Yes.
So South Africans came up with these epic challenges against nature. The PT Slan and the Cape Point. There are a number of these mad and crazy events that popped up over that period. It toughened surf ski paddlers up in South Africa. I think we've always been a pretty hardy, adventurous oriented surf ski paddling community across the country. It's galvanized us together in a big way. Coming up against these massive challenges kind of brings people together. Sport brings people together.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's obviously a lot of iconic ones. Here in Durban, in the last 15 years, we hosted a couple of World Cup races when World Cup and World sort of events started. But obviously having an ICF World Championships right on our doorstep in our city is obviously a first, and something that we won't see again for probably another lifetime.
Yeah.
So it's a real cool opportunity, and I think for me, this Worlds is really going to be a community-oriented event. The club that we're at now, DUC, have really got behind the event. There's volunteers involved. And the paddlers are running Worlds, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
So
an interesting thing, as you were chatting, you were talking about conditions, etc., etc. It has been amazing to watch the local paddlers get involved, put up their hands, and develop concepts like you can actually go and stay with some of the paddlers themselves if you're not going to be staying in hotels. But regarding the racing, there's local, in other words, there's South African, but there's regional within South Africa. So you've got the competition between the Durban people, the Durban culture versus the Cape culture versus the Eastern Cape culture. Maybe we should talk that through a bit.
Yeah, so Durban specifically in terms of conditions and what we're going to expect is quite a warm place. We have literally no winter. We're sitting here and it's a little bit overcast today, but it's 26 degrees Celsius. The water behind me is 24 degrees Celsius. So winter doesn't happen.
Looks calm, but just out there's a 25 kilometer an hour wind blowing, and there's downwind conditions. If you wanted to do a downwind now, you'll hit that, and you can go for as far as you want to.
But you talk about the local community. I definitely think over the last probably 10 years, Billy Harker was very involved in our town in setting up a surf ski series here in the early 2000s. From 2001 to 2006, we were seeing immense growth within the paddling community. It's a very cool time for me, because actually when I started paddling in 2001 in a surf ski, I saw this massive growth, and obviously my paddling career progressed with it, which was really exciting.
What were the numbers of those starts? They were sometimes 300.
It started small. In 2001, we were only getting 100 or 200 people to a race. That grew, I think at about 2005, the guys set a world record at 511 paddlers. I don't know if that's been beaten or not, but it was a big thing at that stage.
A lot of people.
I know that world's entries now have hit the 500 mark, so we possibly might even break that. I think that's progressed over the years, but at the time, in the mid 2000s, it was a big number. And then slowly but surely, I think paddling in Durban, I don't think has thrived drastically. I know we've done a lot in the last year or two, or since COVID, to try and not resurrect the paddling community here, but just do the right things in building it. So our SASS Academy, getting new people into the sport's been important. More achievable events into our paddling calendar has been great. But the nice thing is that I think this World Champs is really going to galvanize some of that paddling community and get people together. For me personally, it works two ways. I've traveled for 10 years on an international circuit of races that a lot of the people that I met from an international perspective are also coming to Durban, which for me personally, all my mates from around the world are coming, plus the local paddling community is going to get behind it, which is really cool. But Durban's paddling right now probably doesn't have the best guys in the country here, other than obviously Hank McGregor, who lives in the town I live up in Ballito. But there's a young contingent of Cape Town paddlers that have all come necessarily out of the Orca squad or part of the Orca squad. It's very sad, unfortunately Pete's passed away very recently, but just chatting to the guys in the squad, they certainly have galvanized together as a squad, and you're going to see this emergence out of the Cape. Now the Cape paddlers, the water's cold, the conditions are very different, so we can't necessarily call them locals to this paddling course. Even though they are only an hour and a half flight away, they're still not going to be sleeping in their own beds and in their home conditions. It's been really exciting for us, because we've seen a lot of those paddlers come to Durban over the last couple of months to do training camps up here, come and check out the conditions. So that's been really cool to see them put their homework in. I definitely think the South Africans...
They've been coming out and they've been visiting?
Yeah, I think it's going to be very hard to see someone beat some of the South Africans. I'm very patriotic. I've got to see a South African win a home world champs.
I mean, we're talking Downwind Diaries, and we're talking conditions, and here we're touching on to the Cape Townians coming out and how they're finding it. I think one of the series is going to be Kira and Jade, who visited, and then the other one is going to be the visit with some of the top guys.
So in episode 2 and 3 and 4 of this Downwind Diaries series, we've already done some of that filming. We've got a great interview with Kira Bester, the current world champ, who's going to be defending her title here in Durbs. Jade Wilson from Cape Town, up and coming under 23. She won a medal at the under 23 World Marathon, so in great form. We've got some videos from them coming soon, as well as Mark Keeling, Nikki Notton, Kenny Rice, Ron Benjamin were all up here as well doing a bit of a training camp. I managed to do a couple of paddles with them, and they're all flying. It's going to be hard to see some of the internationals compete against some of the young South Africans.
I was just thinking, if you had to break the let's say it's a southwest, you're going to be racing from here pretty much in that direction, ending up at Westbrook, 30 plus kilometers, 33, 32 kilometers down the coastline. What are the differentiating factors that will separate the boys from the men?
So I've been to a couple of world champs. I raced at one of the longer ones in Tahiti, which was just over 30 Ks, and the nuance of having it in Durban, and specifically the course length, is going to be a big factor. I think the guys are very used to racing the 20 to 25 kilometer distances, and every 10 Ks more doesn't seem like a lot to some people, but I definitely think it's going to be a massive factor in the racing. Tactics, conditions. someone said to me recently, and I would agree, that Worlds will probably be run in attrition. So the guy that can last, I don't think the first 10 Ks of the race is going to be any different to racing a freaking 20K race. The guys are going to go, it's world champs, the guys are going to go just as hard. It's the guys that can still hold it together in the last 10 Ks, I think they're going to be the differentiating factor. If we do go on the east, which is the opposite direction,
that's going to be out there, turning right and heading that way.
Let me tell you, I really like that east course. And specifically around Durban conditions that time of year, it is a windy time of year. It's a great time to have Worlds in Durban because right on our doorstep, that is when the wind blows. I was just chatting to a friend this morning from overseas. We're getting so many inquiries now about guys asking questions about conditions. And I was saying, like, reality, middle of August to the middle of November is really our windy months. So having the World Champs in October, I personally think a great chance that we possibly could get really good downwind conditions. We've obviously got a 3-day window, so the guys are doing whatever they can to make sure that we have proper ocean conditions, which is really exciting for a South African. We love the big stuff. There's obviously some challenges with surf, with some of the guys not necessarily having as much experience.
Well, let's talk that through a bit, because the start is going to be here, so there's
everyone's going to get out.
Everyone's going to have an easy start.
Yeah, everyone's going to get out. On the west, there's literally not a wave in sight. On the east, there might be a little bit of chop.
By putting the buoy, so around about 16 kilometers from here, they're putting a buoy close to Mklanga. That is going to take out a lot of the local tactical knowledge, because everyone has to go around that buoy, and that's going to equalize, it's going to minimize the local advantage the guys might have got if they didn't have to go through that buoy.
Craig, I almost disagree with you, and I don't want to disagree with you, but I kind of have to, because you still have to navigate across a bay.
I agree with you.
So what I do think is putting the buoy off from Mklanga, so just to explain, the southwesterly course will go to DC to Westbrook. It's actually just over 33 Ks, maybe 34 depending on your line. So halfway they're putting a buoy off a town, but the first part of the race is crossing the Durban Bay across to that.
Yeah, pretty much there.
Yeah. So you pretty much head almost straight out to sea, which is an optical illusion. We're in a little bay, so it's not really, it's down the coast, but it feels like you're paddling out to sea, and navigating across that bay is the locals will have an advantage. I do think it takes the local knowledge out of the second half of the race, but I think by that stage the race has separated the men from the boys. I think the nuance of having
it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
It's going to be, because there's, what's to say, the guys just follow the local guys.
So putting the buoy there does make, and this is my perspective, and I don't think everyone's going to agree with me, but I think everyone's going to be a little bit closer in the first little bit. Yes, 100%. But I think the difference is going to be the length of the course. Someone that is going to be not in the mix in the first couple of Ks, I know for myself, I'm not as quick as some of these youngsters. I'm not really going to be too worried. I'm going to try and manage my race course over 30-something Ks and kind of make sure that I'm consistent over the longer period of time, and just make sure I hedge my bets on making sure I'm fit.
So there's a lot of assumptions. The first assumption is that there's going to be a big southwest, and the next assumption is that there's going to be a big northeast.
Well, I was saying I really like the northeast course. The northeast course is really hard for the first 2 or 3 Ks, because you're going to have head kind of crosswind conditions, but the direction of the runs on the northeast coast is, it is amazing.
Good one tomorrow. All the boys are on it tomorrow.
Yeah, we're going to be doing test paddle for sure, but the kind of runs really straight down the coast. There's not a lot of nuance with sort of guys going out to sea deep or shallow. It's a pretty simple line. So I really like the northeast course. I do think that having the buoy on the west course will also make racing a lot fairer. It will bring people together, and you won't have that hallelujah guy that takes this massive deep line and gets some current. It takes a lot of the guesswork on making the course really fair, being a little bit longer. Both the courses I think are amazing, and let's just hope the wind blows. I think the wind's going to be a key factor.
If the northeaster blows, this first 3 kilometers is going to add, it's going to be interesting, because if you get it right, you can add on some advantage.
So I think getting it right's an interesting thing. I think the person that doesn't burn their matches in that first 3 Ks is going to be really important. You're going to have to obviously last 28 Ks, still a little bit longer than your traditional courses, and I think people go too hard into the wind too early. I definitely think you can burn some matches in those first couple of Ks, and for me, as I've said before, I'm not as quick. I'm really looking forward to just making sure that I don't get into issues like big bunches at Worlds, the process of how the bunches are going to work, and just making sure that we don't do anything stupid, clash with anyone. There's going to be 500 boats on the start line, and I think the person that just makes sure that they don't get into trouble, make sure that they're racing clean and sharp and cleverly, I think is going to be important on both start lines.
Okay. If the swell is too big and the surf at the finishes is too big, what are they going to do?
So you and I are not on the race committee, and luckily that's not our call, because I think that
we are commentators. We're allowed to commentate.
I'd be very, very stressed as a race organizer to deal with those situations.
Because we do. We have tomorrow, for example, there's going to be 4 meter swell.
It's not going to stop us from paddling.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
For sure. That's the local people.
I think the big important thing is there is a bit of a window period.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to get out. I do know that the organizers have a B and C course for both wind conditions, so we're going to be racing. And I'm just crossing my fingers that we get the surf, the wind, everything lining up for us.
But this bay does offer opportunities, right? Yeah. It does offer.
So the reality of how many times we race here downwind to these locations is actually quite few. We run course races within the bay quite a lot. Most of our races are lap races in this bay. Because of the wind direction, you can really make use of kind of the headland of the bluff to create some very good courses. I'm just crossing fingers it's downwind, and just knowing the guys involved, they're paddlers, they're running the race, they're going to want to make us race downwind, they're going to make us want to race in the open ocean conditions. So, and with the window, I don't see us.
And they've made it clear that safety is a priority, so that's a good one.
Jeez, I've been watching some of the World's Channel videos, and they've got an amazing safety protocol in case. For 500 paddlers, they've got the Innis Ride, the local ski boat club, they've got jet skis. They're covering all their bases for sure, and we're looking forward to an epic time at Worlds. I think that's it for our first episode. We've had a great time chatting to you and sharing our passion for surf ski paddling. We've got a whole lot more to come. Tune in.
And if there's any questions, send them through to us, and we'll deal with them.
Yeah, drop them in the comments.
And if we can't ask them, we'll ask those that can answer.
Drop them in the comments. We're looking forward to answering your questions, and see you in episode 2 soon.
Looking forward to that.